Hey, how's it going everyone? Jinsula here. So, I played Peridot for about 30 minutes, and I have a lot of thoughts regarding this brand new game from Niantic. I really do think that as a Pokemon GO player, there's some things to be excited about when it comes to Peridot, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that I thought was really bad about this game, and yeah, I wanted to talk about that here in this video. So yeah, let's roll the intro and get right into it. Alright, let's talk about Peridot. So, this is Niantic's brand new game featuring an original IP, and a lot of players were wondering if this was going to be the new benchmark game for this game studio, considering that Pokemon GO has been single-handedly carrying it for the longest time. I can tell you right now that this game does have a lot of potential, but overall, I just cannot see for the life of me how it could ever dethrone Pokemon GO. The gameplay is kind of the culprit here, but we'll get more into that later. But first, let's talk about some of the positives with Peridot, because if there is some carryover of Peridot mechanics into Pokemon GO, I actually think it would be a really good thing. So yeah, first and foremost, the art style. The art is actually really pretty in Peridot. Like, all the little creatures, the dots, like, they're actually really cute and interesting. And I think Niantic did a really good job here with an original IP. Everything from the UI to the items that you can collect, like, they all follow kind of like a fantastical, whimsical theme. And I think they did a really good job with it. Like, yeah, there's definitely a style guide that they're following for this game, and I really do think they did a very good job. I mean, historically, Niantic was not necessarily known for their art. Like, all of their games that were popular, they were using assets from other established games, like, for example, Pokemon GO. So I do think Niantic deserves some credit here. They did a really good job from an aesthetic point of view. Now, another positive around Peridot that I want to discuss is, of course, the AR technology. Like, they actually take AR to the next level, and I'm very impressed with it. There's a lot of things that I noticed while I was playing Peridot that I really wish would be something with Pokemon GO. Like, it's basically a glorified version of Pokemon GO's buddy system. Like, that's basically the entire game. But there's just so many things you can do with your dot that is very impressive from a technical standpoint. Like, the way that your dot interacts with real-world objects and the way that it could just kind of be a part of the real world, like, that is extremely interesting and extremely impressive that Niantic was able to figure this stuff out. Like, for the most part, when I was testing out this game, I was at a park, and I did notice that the Peridot was actually just hanging out in the grass and actually interacting with the floor, and overall, I thought it was really cool. Like, it was very clean. Like, the AR technology is definitely something that has come a long way. But it wasn't until I got home and I played the game a little bit while sitting on the couch that I really did take note of how much the AR technology has advanced. Like, there's a part where you could actually interact with your pets at home, like your dogs and cats, and it actually could detect my dog. Like, I thought that was really cool. And the dot would actually go up to the dog as if it was seeing it in real life. Like, I was extremely impressed with what Niantic did here. Like, the technology is definitely noteworthy. I think Niantic has put a lot of work into AR, and probably some of that comes from the data collection that they've been getting from Pokemon GO players. But in general, I think they're doing a good job, and they're definitely keeping up with their reputation as the forefront of AR technology. Like, if some of this technology does actually make it to Pokemon GO, it's definitely going to make things like the Buddy Adventure system more interesting. So I'm really curious to see if there's going to be any kind of crossover, because Niantic is actually onto something here when it comes to AR technology, and yeah, you gotta give credit where credit is due. They're definitely doing a good job with it. So yeah, those are the two big positives that I thought of while playing Peridot, and yeah, now let's talk about the negatives regarding this game, because I do think there's a lot of things wrong with Peridot that is something that needs to be addressed. And I also think that there is kind of a concern for how Niantic is going to be treating all of their games moving forward. And I really do hope that Niantic takes note of some of this feedback, because I do think Peridot has the capabilities of being a really cool thing. But in general, it just seems like Niantic did not stick the landing in a lot of ways, and I'm really hoping that they course correct, because I do think that when it comes to Niantic and Pokemon GO, it's kind of fading out. Like, not a lot of people are playing Pokemon Go or they're excited about it as they used to be. So yeah, if Niantic wants to survive as a game studio, they will need that other landmark game to rely on, and I do think Peridot has the potential to be that. First and foremost, I do not like the fact that Peridot is strictly AR gameplay. Like, yes, it is meant to be a showcase of their AR technology, and they do a really good job of that, like I mentioned earlier. But I do wish there was some more gameplay elements that did not involve AR, because the game by itself is kind of stale. Like, yes, it's meant to be kind of like a Tamagotchi / Neopets kind of game, but you know, there really isn't much to do in the game. Like, other than playing with your dot and breeding and all these little sort of things, like, there really isn't much to the game. Like, there's no point to it. Like, at least with Pokemon Go, yes, you're collecting a bunch of little creatures and critters, but you're actually doing something with them that's productive. Like, you're gym battling, you're raiding, you're PvPing. There really isn't much with Peridot. Like, you're basically just interacting with 1 or 2 creatures at a time, and that's pretty much it. That's the entirety of the game. The gameplay loop is incredibly small, and there's just no reason for me to enjoy this game beyond the first couple of minutes that I opened it up. So yeah, that's a major flaw of Peridot. I really do think from a content point of view, Niantic needs to do more, because, like I said, this game has a lot of potential, and it's really sad to see that the game just launched with very little, and I really do hope there's more coming to this game. And of course, it is an incredibly buggy game. Like, there were so many moments where I would just see my dot just fall through the floor, like clip through the floor. I'm pretty sure that's not intended, and yeah, there's still a couple of things with AR technology that Niantic hasn't quite figured out yet, and that is definitely evident while you play. Yes, the technology has advanced quite a lot, and I was actually very impressed by it, but in general, it's still not polished and it's still not clean. So hopefully Niantic can get on that, because Peridot relies on AR technology very heavily. So if there's going to be a lot of bugs and issues, like, that's going to be detrimental to the player experience. And this one was a very serious issue, but I actually think it's going to be a byproduct with how Peridot plays out. The game was overheating my phone, like, very frequently and very quickly, and it was draining my battery at a very fast rate. You really cannot play Peridot for an extended period of time, which is a shame, because there were moments where I wanted to go for a walk with my dot and see how it interacts with the world, but realistically, I would not be able to play this game for more than 10-minute sessions, because it was making my phone into a hot brick, and yeah, it was draining my battery at a rate where I would not have enough to turn on the GPS to go home. So I really do think this is a huge flaw. Unfortunately, like I said, it just seems to be a byproduct of the way how Peridot plays, because it is an AR game, and it's always going to be using your camera, it's always going to be using a lot of your GPU, and it's going to be extremely taxing even on the most highest end phones. So yeah, I really do think that that is a major flaw with this game, so I don't know what the solution would be there. Like, some people online have been saying that if you put it to the lowest graphic settings, that would help this issue out, but in general, I just feel like Niantic needs to implement some more battery saving features like they've done for Pokemon Go, and I think that would go a long way for Peridot, because yeah, this game definitely makes my phone way too hot and drains the battery way too quick. And then finally, I think this is a huge issue, but monetization. Like, the in-game shop is very overbloated. There's not a lot of value for what you're paying whenever it comes to the in-app purchases, and there's really no direction or any motivation for those in-app purchases. Like, that's one of the big problems with this game. There really is no direction. Like, it doesn't really do a good job at telling you what you're supposed to be doing. Like I said, it's a very simple game, and unfortunately that could be a huge fault to this game. Like, you know, I really feel like when it comes to Pokemon Go, and even their other games like Harry Potter Wizards Unite or Pikmin Bloom and all of those games, like, there was at least some direction. Like, there was some goals for you to hit, and if you want to hit those goals, you can achieve them a lot faster if you were to make purchases in the in-game shops. But when it comes to Peridot, I really do not know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, what is the end goal? Like, what am I supposed to be working towards? Like, there's nothing in the in-game shop that really indicates what I'm supposed to be doing, and I really think that's a huge fault. Like, yes, I think the game could do a much better job at giving you a bunch of goals with your dots, but instead it just kind of leaves you be. Like, you interact with your dot and it gives you a couple of tutorials along the way, but in general, you really do not know what you're supposed to be doing in Peridot, and the in-game shop does reflect that quite a bit. I've also heard rumblings that there's a couple of mechanics that are core features of Peridot, at least that's what some beta testers have been saying, and some of the prices in the in-game shop are extremely expensive for those necessary items, and I really think that could be a huge problem as well. Maybe they have to go back to the drawing board when it comes to monetization, because if the game is meant to be this simple, then I do think monetization could be a lot better. Like, just add more value to some of those purchases, like make it worthwhile for the players. Because as of right now, there's no real telling why I should be spending any money in Peridot, and I think that's just because of the design of the game. So yeah, those are some of my feedback when it comes to Peridot. Now, what are my overall thoughts regarding this game, and how do I think it will affect Pokémon GO? Well, first and foremost, I do not think this is a game that could ever surpass Pokémon GO in terms of player numbers or player enthusiasm. I think the biggest disadvantage it has going for it is the fact that it is a brand new IP. I always applaud game studios who are working with original IP. Like, it's always going to make the game feel a lot better, and it gives them a lot of creative freedom that they typically wouldn't get. But of course, because of that, I don't think it can hold a candle to Pokémon GO, and it's not going to affect Pokémon GO in any way. It's not like a lot of Pokémon GO players are suddenly going to ditch Pokémon GO for Peridot, but I do think it can be a nice supplemental activity in between when you're not necessarily doing anything in Pokémon GO. So, you know, I think this game could be a good thing. Like, it could be a game that you could synergize with Pokémon GO. And, you know, it's really all going to depend on what Niantic does with all of their IPs moving forward. I mean, you know, Peridot is not going to have its own community day, or at least I would be shocked if it does. But, you know, when it comes to this game's design and when it comes to this game's aesthetics and everything else, like, it doesn't impede or kind of cross over with Pokemon Go. It's really its own thing. So I really think Niantic should lean into that. I think that would make this game really strong and also keep the other games intact. Of course, Pokemon Go is not in a good state right now, and I've repeatedly talked about that throughout my YouTube channel, and none of their other games are drawing any kind of excitement as well. So, you know, when it comes to Niantic, I really think that, yes, they should continue making Peridot a much better experience. But at the same time, I think Pokemon Go deserves a lot more attention, considering that it is probably their biggest moneymaker and it will remain so for the longest time. So yeah, I'm really torn right now because I do think Peridot is something that deserves to succeed, but at the same time, I feel like Niantic is better off dedicating those resources going into Peridot into making Pokemon Go a better experience. But that's just me. I'm a little biased. I'm of course a Pokemon Go channel, so I'm naturally going to draw Pokemon Go into a Peridot discussion, but you know, I just kind of want to see the games flourish. Like, ultimately, that's what I want. Like, I want Pokemon Go to do well, I want Peridot to do well, I want all of Niantic's other games to do well, but unfortunately, it's Niantic that's actually preventing all of that from happening. But in any case, yeah, that's just everything that I thought about regarding Peridot. I would love to know your thoughts down below. Have you actually tried out this game? If you have, definitely share your thoughts regarding it down below in the comments, and let's have a great discussion. And yeah, that's going to be it for this video. If you ended up enjoying it, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that little notification bell so that you do not miss out on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then do consider checking out the links in the description below. And yeah, that's going to be it. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.